Okay, so we have our third curve here. I'm going to turn on the control points the difficult way, and we're going to see that this line, now that we've rebuilt it, it's done pretty much essentially the same thing as what the other one had. So I'm going to turn them all on, and let's just go through the same manual process and get comfortable with moving these control points. So let's do the same thing again, and let's adjust all these control points to their proper location. This time I'm actually just going to use the gumball, just to show that there's more than one way to do these things. And it might just be easier. You could do it basically with one hand with the gumball. I'm getting something weird here, so I'm gonna seems like the gumball has a little bit of trouble snapping to the grid. So what I'm gonna do is go here, and I believe you can snap it to the I think you can. There we go. So what I did there for the gumball is I said snappy dragging. I don't know why that's the name for it. It's kind of silly, but snappy dragging seems to snap to the grid. And then the other version is smooth dragging, and so that allows you to smoothly drag an object. Okay, so now that we have all these curves here, and they're taken care of, now the next thing to do is let's turn on, I want to mirror all these, so that way we have all of them again, right? So let's turn on our midpoint, so that way we can draw a line from the midpoint here, and we're going to draw this line at 0.5, which is halfway. So now I have a line there, right? So now when I select all the curves that we've created and rebuilt, and I mirror them, I can mirror them using that as a reference. So I'll do that again. I select all these, and I'm going to type the command mirror, and then I'm going to select the endpoint, which is essentially the center, and now it's going to mirror it for me. And I'm just going to go to this side right here, and I'm going to click, make sure it says copy yes, because you want to create a copy, and I'm going to just click, and now it's created a mirror of the lines that I had previously. And then I'll just delete that little reference line that I created, so now it's mirrored for me. So each one of these should still retain its degree of 5, even though I copied it, and its points for 11. And let's just highlight all of them and turn on the control points, and it looks like everything's very clear. So I'll let everybody get to that point. Okay, so now the next thing to do is let's select all these in the center here, and we're going to go into front view, and we are going to type move, and we're going to move them up 8 and click enter. And then now we will see, looking in front view, you can see the degree of each curve. And this is the 5, this is the 3, and this is the 1. And you can see the sharpness to the smoothness of it. So the degree affects how much a curve actually becomes curved when you control its control points. And here it is in perspective, so you can see it there as well. Okay, so let's draw just a plane on the bottom, and what we're going to do is we're going to intersect these lines here with that plane, and then we're going to hide these lines to see how much of these lines actually touch that plane. And I'll show you guys how to do it first, and then you guys can follow suit. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to go here into the surface creation, and I'll just pull it out, and I'm going to check this one right here, rectangular plane, corner to corner, and I'm just going to start in the 0, 0, 0, because that's where we started, and I'm going to go to the other end here. So now I've created that plane there, and I can close this. And what I'm going to actually do is I'm just going to extend the plane just slightly. So the way I'm doing that is I turn the gumball on, and when you turn the gumball on and you select an object, let me go into shaded so you can see it more properly there. you select an object, it selects the whole object. But if you hold down Shift and Control at the same time, and you select the object edge, it selects just the edge of that object. That's something to note. It's a very strong and powerful thing that you can do there. So then when you select this, all it's going to do is extrude that surface and extend it, is a better word for it. So I just want to extend it out a little bit, so that way, you know, these curves are on the center of our plane here and not just like touching the edges like it was previously. So I'm just going to select all of them and kind of just open that up a little bit. So now this just lies right somewhere in the center. And so I'm going to switch a layer so that way we can see the color difference when we do this intersection now. And I'm going to go ahead and just select all the lines and the surface, and I'm going to type intersect, just to make sure that they went on the right curve or on the right layer. I'm going to do that. Okay. So now I'm going to select the curves that we extruded upward from a control point. I'm just going to hide them. And now you can see on this surface here the intersection, right? So our ones, our curves that had a UV of 1, I'm going to hide just half. So you can see the entire line up until that control point touches the surface before it goes up. So when you have a degree of 1, that means that it doesn't even affect the points neighboring it, right? So if it has a degree of 1 and you move 1 point, it's only moving that 1 point. Everything next to it doesn't get affected, right? Now if you look at the one that we changed to 3, you can see the difference here. You can see how it's the line doesn't touch quite as much. And if I turn on the control points here, you'll see that that control point, even though it still lies on this plane, you can see that it is affected by that. And you can even see that, let's see here, if it let's see how far it made it. So I'm just going to draw just a line like that, and I'm going to turn it back on this. And you can see, essentially, it didn't affect this control point, but it did affect that one. So you can see how a degree of 3 affected the neighboring point. And then if we, I'm just going to hide these two, and now we're just going to be looking at this one, the degree of 5. You can see here, and I'll turn on the control points, how small this line became. And this is all that this line is touching on the surface. So if you get into front view and you get real close and zoom in on there, you'll see that the plane and that curve don't actually touch for the longest time. And that's reflected by this very tiny line right here. So you can, does everybody sort of follow along with what I'm doing here? That if you change the degree of a curve by rebuilding it, it actually affects how smooth that curve is and how it affects the control points next to it.
How you have that lines on your
These lines?
yeah.
So what I did is I just intersected these lines here. I intersected them with this plane just so we could see for reference how much they touch that plane. And you can see by the degree differences that we chose how much each one touches. So there's a significantly large difference, right? Okay. So I'm going to stop this video and then we'll pick up on the next one.